The Kings had the 7th worst record in the league, the 4th worst record in the West, and the 6th worst net rating. They were a little fortunate to be picking this high, but I suppose Kings fans need some source of joy considering everything that's happened to them over the past few years. By the way, you couldn't get them into the top 3 though, Mr. Silver. Either way, the Kings should be in a great position to select a player that could change the entire trajectory of this franchise. Whether they will or not is an entirely different question. I mean, the choices are pretty straightforward, right? In this video, I plan on talking about those quote-unquote straightforward choices and how they could fit this Kings roster. Let's start with Shaedon Sharpe out of Kentucky. The Kings need a spark. Yeah, they made this a bonus trade, but that probably won't get them into real playoff contention. What they need is a star, or at least someone with star upside. That's exactly what Shaedon Sharpe has. Sharpe is an electric athlete. He's got some truly jaw-dropping burst and explosion at the rim. He makes it look so effortless when he gets into the restricted area. He's a pretty good finisher at the rim in general, and his length helps him in this regard too. Sharpe is a big time scorer and has some serious shot creation upside. Between him, Sabonis and Fox, the Kings should have a pretty respectable offense. His jumper should be pure from both inside and outside the arc, and that combined with his ability at the rim should be a decent foundation for a high-level scorer. His vertical athleticism doesn't really translate a great deal to explosion of the dribble though, and is definitely more of a slow, methodical dribbler than a freight train like Jaden Ivey, who we'll speak about later. There is potential there though, and I wouldn't rule out growth either. The passing also wasn't a major negative, but it wasn't a real positive either. I'm not sure he can ever be the focal point of an offense, despite him having the ability to be the team's best scorer. Also, for all his athleticism at the rim, he didn't really show a great amount of lateral quickness on the perimeter, and that was in high school. His length and verticality are good tools for him to have, and project him as a decent defender at least. Also, he was pretty good at helping and being a recovery defender, but in general he still has a lot to work on that end. That's the part of his game that really concerns me if the Kings do end up drafting him, because they don't really have that many good defenders who are taller than 6'2" and who aren't in trade rumors every year. Next up, let's talk about Jaden Ivey out of Purdue. The hype around Jaden Ivey has seemed to have died down recently. The focus on the top 3 guys and the addition of Shaedon Sharpe has no doubt influenced this. However, in my eyes at least, he's still in that upper tier in this class. He's an elite athlete and gets a lot of Ja Morant comparisons, and from a burst perspective, yeah, I can see it. Morant is a much better vertical athlete and far more crafty in the air when finishing. Ivey is bigger though, so he wears bumps and nudges better on his way to the basket. His jumper was much improved in his second year at Purdue, and I think he'll be a viable shooter in the NBA. That means that I feel like he can play off the ball too. That should be good news for the Kings, who already have 2 young guards they will be allocating significant minutes to. The shooting will also be very needed for a team that finished in the bottom third for 3-point attempts and efficiency. The passing has potential, but will need some work to reach that true high-level facilitator status. The Kings were also a bottom third team in terms of assists, so adding some playmaking in general will be helpful. The defense again has potential, but it requires more effort and attention on his part. If the Kings are willing to put the time and resources into developing him properly, he could be a cornerstone of their franchise for a long time. I think there's a chance that Jabari is available at 4 for the Kings if someone falls in love with Shaedon Sharpe or Jaden Ivey, so I'm gonna talk about him here as well. Jabari probably has the highest floor in the draft. There's a good chance he ends up being something close to 16 Klay Thompson, and boy would Kings fans love that. Jabari's stroke was exceptionally pure, and I'm convinced it will translate. He shot jumpers from all over the court and from all sorts of situations. Catch and shoot, pull-ups, step-backs, turnarounds, you name it, he did it. He has that ability to just rise up above guys and nail shots right in their face. I mentioned the Kings' struggles from 3 when I spoke about Ivy, and Jabari would definitely help them with that too. Defensively, he's a monster on the perimeter. He's very long, has good technique, and is built with an insane motor. He loves to battle with guys and gets nice and low, which is a great sign for a guy as tall as he is. I believe his work ethic and passion could be good for the Kings locker room too, and might ignite something there. He's also an exceptional athlete and should be a great player in transition. I also think there's a chance Paolo is here, especially if a team falls in love with Ivy or Sharpe and the Magic take Jabari at 1. Banchero has the highest offensive ceiling in the draft for me. That would definitely fit the Kings' idea of a high upside pick. The shot making ability, the playmaking, the offensive versatility, and the depth of his bag has me all really interested. He was able to be the best player on the court on the offensive end for Duke and have that kind of impact without necessarily being that heliocentric. His jumper could use some work though, but I wouldn't say it's bad at all. Defensively, he wasn't always at his best, but I think there's some real potential there. I truly believe that if the right people get their hands on him, he can be a solid defender. If that doesn't improve though, the combo of him and Sabonis in the front court could be a serious defensive issue. I don't think that's a reason not to draft him if he is here though.